Imagine a world where everything you thought you knew about the music and entertainment industry is upside down. What if Diddy, the man you see on magazine covers, commanding the stage and running the biggest parties, isn't actually the mastermind everyone assumes? What if behind the glitz, the fame, and the public persona, someone far more powerful is quietly orchestrating the moves that shape careers, influence decisions, and control reputations? That's the theory spreading fast across social media and insider discussions, a theory that has even caught the attention of Elon Musk and 50 Cent. According to sources, they aren't just sharing opinions, they're hinting at years of evidence, digital communications, and insider knowledge that could reveal a hidden layer of influence few people even suspected. The question that now hangs over the industry is simple but terrifying. If Diddy isn't the one at the top, who is? And if the person behind him is truly untouchable, what does that say about the entire ecosystem of power that controls what we see, hear, and believe? It's a mystery that combines intrigue, scandal, and a level of control most fans will never imagine, and it sets the stage for a story that moves beyond music, beyond celebrity, and straight into the heart of influence itself. Every rumor, every private message, and every carefully timed statement suddenly takes on new meaning when viewed through this lens. And as the puzzle pieces start to come together, one thing becomes clear. The person people are watching might not be the one pulling the strings, and everything that seems obvious could be a calculated distraction. This is not just a story about fame, it's a story about control, manipulation, and the hidden networks that quietly decide who rises, who falls, and who is allowed to remain untouchable. When you start to map out the alleged structure of the entertainment world, a pyramid begins to emerge. At the bottom, you find the familiar names, the celebrities, the artists, the faces everyone recognizes. Jay-Z, Beyoncé, and others fill this tier, powerful in their own right, but still operating within rules set by those above them. In the middle, the gatekeepers hold sway, figures like Oprah Winfrey and Clive Davis, individuals who decide what is seen, what is promoted, and what is silenced. They may not perform on stage or release hit albums, but their influence runs deep, shaping narratives, careers, and public perception. And at the top, the name most people would never expect appears, someone who operates outside conventional definitions of fame and yet carries enormous authority and credibility. This is the individual who can lend legitimacy to a public figure, control narratives without public scrutiny, and remain untouchable in ways that shock even seasoned insiders. The pyramid doesn't end in studios or boardrooms. It stretches into media networks, philanthropic initiatives, and even the church, where influence can quietly reinforce public trust while protecting private agendas. Every level of the pyramid depends on the layer above it to maintain power, and silence, loyalty, and discretion become the currency of survival. What's shocking to many is that this isn't speculation based on gossip. It's being pieced together from patterns of behavior, carefully timed moves, and insider testimonies. And the more you study it, the more you realize that Diddy, as prominent and powerful as he seems, might actually be a convenient figurehead. His public image draws attention, while the real forces operate in the shadows, deciding outcomes without ever stepping into the spotlight. This hidden pyramid challenges everything the public believes about fame, control, and accountability in the entertainment world, revealing a system where appearances are misleading and influence is measured not by who is seen, but by who remains unseen.
The rumors surrounding Diddy have long intrigued and disturbed the public, but some claims suggest a level of control far beyond what most would expect from a celebrity. According to insiders, Diddy allegedly had private gatherings that were carefully monitored with hidden cameras, hundreds of them, strategically placed throughout his properties. These recordings weren't just for entertainment. Sources claimed they were leverage tools, a silent method of keeping attendees in line without the need for direct confrontation. The concept is chilling. If someone knows they are being observed and that footage could be used strategically, compliance becomes almost automatic. This created an environment where influence was exercised without threats, where behavior could be guided and controlled by the simple presence of surveillance. Furthermore, there are whispers that some of these tapes are being quietly relocated, generating tension among those who might appear in them. The mere possibility that private interactions were captured and stored somewhere has created a ripple of concern across the industry. Commentators and insiders like Jaguar Wright and Gene Deal have weighed in, pointing out that these kinds of practices transform rumors into a system of control. What was once speculative now feels like something that could have real consequences if made public. And as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that these allegations extend beyond personal misconduct. They represent a sophisticated, hidden mechanism of influence. Whether or not the tapes ever surface, the perception alone shifts the balance of power, making even the most untouchable figures reconsider their actions. The tension escalates because the public is beginning to question not just what Diddy did or didn't do, but why others around him remained silent. It's a web of secrecy, fear, and strategic placement that has the potential to expose the deeper dynamics at play in a world where appearances are carefully curated and reality is often concealed behind layers of influence.
Elon Musk's involvement adds an entirely new dimension to the story, one that shifts it from rumor into the realm of documented evidence. Through his platform X, he has access to years of private communications among celebrities, executives, and even political figures, messages that were never meant for public consumption. These private exchanges provide context that contrasts sharply with the public image many of these figures project, revealing discrepancies between what is said in private and what is portrayed online or in interviews. Musk himself has referenced these contradictions subtly, raising questions about credibility, trust, and accountability. In one instance, he used Jennifer Lopez as an example, not to accuse, but to illustrate a gap between public awareness and behind-the-scenes knowledge. The implication is striking. If someone as close to the inner circle remains silent, what does that suggest about loyalty, fear, or complicity? The evidence Musk holds, according to sources, is not casual. It represents a meticulous record of behavior, choices, and communications that could corroborate patterns of influence and control. This shifts the conversation from speculation to possibility. Suddenly, the public isn't just questioning rumors, they are beginning to consider the likelihood that these hidden dynamics have been in operation for years, with Diddy as only one visible piece of a much larger puzzle. The revelation that private data could surface at any moment creates tension across multiple tiers of the pyramid, as individuals must consider the consequences of their actions, not just for their own careers, but for the larger network of connections in which they operate. Musk's role introduces a new level of credibility and urgency, transforming what could have been dismissed as entertainment gossip into a story of potential exposure, influence, and unprecedented power dynamics. As the narrative climbs the pyramid, attention naturally turns to artists like Jay-Z and Beyoncé, figures whose influence extends far beyond music. For years, whispers have surrounded Jay-Z regarding his connections to certain high-profile incidents, including unresolved tragedies and long-standing industry controversies. Public interviews rarely touch these topics, and when they do, the responses are often vague, controlled, or carefully redirected. This persistent avoidance has fueled theories that silence itself is a form of protection, a method of maintaining influence without direct confrontation. Timing also plays a key role in the narrative. Legal interventions, attorney appearances, and public statements often coincide with shifts in power or career movements, suggesting a level of orchestration that the public rarely sees. Analysts and insiders point out that Jay-Z's silence is strategic, preserving not only personal reputation but also the stability of relationships within the industry. Meanwhile, Beyoncé, often seen alongside him in both artistic and business endeavors, is similarly implicated as a figure whose public perception shields her from scrutiny, while private actions remain largely unknown. The pattern of unanswered questions raises broader concerns about accountability and transparency. It forces the audience to wonder how much of the celebrity world is performative, a series of curated appearances and carefully timed statements designed to protect deeper networks of influence. The combination of silence, strategic communication, and timing paint a picture of an ecosystem where visibility does not equal control, and where the most powerful players operate through subtle mechanisms that maintain authority without attracting public attention. The deeper you look into the history of the industry, the more patterns begin to emerge. Events that seem coincidental at first, but when examined collectively, suggest something far more calculated. One of the earliest and most cited examples is Big L, a rising figure in the hip-hop world who was instrumental in opening doors for Jay-Z, connecting him with influential people like Dame Dash and helping set up negotiations that could have changed the entire landscape. Then, just days after these pivotal deals reportedly began, Big L was killed in a Harlem drive-by shooting, a tragedy that remains officially unsolved to this day. What strikes many insiders as unsettling is not just the timing, but the broader pattern that follows. Throughout the years, several key figures who posed potential challenges or had the power to disrupt established networks faced sudden, unexplained misfortunes. Commentators like Jaguar Wright have suggested these events are not random, but part of a strategic effort to consolidate control. The theory extends further when you look at the middle tier of the pyramid. Individuals like Oprah Winfrey and Clive Davis. Both are icons with influence that reaches far beyond music, shaping public opinion and career trajectories without ever stepping directly into the spotlight. Critics have long noted Oprah's proximity to Harvey Weinstein and other controversial figures, questioning why warnings were never publicly raised and why silence persisted despite apparent awareness. Clive Davis, similarly, has been a mentor, influencer, and gatekeeper, with decades of control over the music landscape. Even without public scandals directly tied to him, his mere presence in negotiations and industry dealings has created a web of loyalty, expectation, and unspoken rules. Patterns of sudden misfortune, carefully timed public statements, and strategic silences combine to paint a picture where events are not random accidents, but elements of a larger system of power, one that ensures the continuity of control while minimizing disruption. The consequences of these patterns are felt far beyond the music industry, influencing media coverage, public perception, and the very structure of celebrity influence itself. The apex of the pyramid, according to the theory circulating online and in insider conversations, is someone most people would never associate with the scandals, power plays, or influence games of Hollywood and hip-hop. Bishop T.D. Jakes. A figure known for spiritual guidance and moral authority, he occupies a unique position of credibility, one that insiders claim has been strategically leveraged to provide legitimacy to those operating in the shadows. Sources suggest that 50 Cent's documentary carefully placed Jakes in key moments, not by chance, but to signal connections and influence subtly to those paying attention. When confronted with questions about alleged connections, Jake's response was notably restrained. "Keep it moving," he said, a phrase that instantly fueled speculation rather than quelling it. He further referenced the concept of repentance, suggesting that sins could be covered, but added that he personally did not need to repent. To the public, this came across as deflection, a strategic ambiguity that preserved reputation while leaving room for interpretation. Commentators like Jaguar Wright have noted that the spiritual presence of someone like Jakes in these narratives serves multiple purposes. It legitimizes powerful figures, provides a veneer of untouchability, and reinforces an environment where actions are insulated from scrutiny. This suggests that the true power at the top of the pyramid is not flashy or overt. It is quiet, subtle, and deeply effective, operating through influence rather than public spectacle. By lending credibility and moral authority to key figures, Jakes and others at the top can maintain the balance of power, ensuring that the visible players like Diddy draw attention, while the real architects of influence remain hidden, untouchable, and protected by layers of strategic discretion. The public may never see the mechanics at work, but the effects ripple across industries, shaping careers, narratives, and decisions in ways most fans will never suspect.
When you step back and examine the entirety of this network, the overarching theme becomes clear. Power protects power until it can no longer. From Diddy's alleged control of private gatherings to Elon Musk's access to confidential communications, from the silence of Jay-Z and Beyoncé to the influence of Oprah, Clive Davis, and finally Bishop T.D. Jakes, a structured system of authority emerges. It is a web that spans industries, from music and entertainment to media, politics, and spiritual influence, and at each level, fear, loyalty, and discretion maintain the hierarchy. The allegations, rumors, and patterns of mysterious events are more than just shocking stories. They illustrate a system where appearances are misleading and where those who appear untouchable are often protected by layers of unseen influence. And while speculation alone can't prove guilt or innocence, the possibility that proof exists changes the stakes entirely. It turns what might have been dismissed as gossip into a tense narrative where exposure is the ultimate threat. The narrative ends not with answers, but with questions. How much of the industry's public persona is a carefully curated illusion? And how many of the names we recognize are merely players in a game directed by unseen hands? And what happens if those hidden mechanisms are finally exposed? The truth may be closer than most think, and the ramifications could ripple far beyond entertainment, shaking perceptions, careers, and institutions that have long been assumed invulnerable. So we leave it here, with the question hanging in the air. Is this all coincidence, or are cracks forming in a system designed to remain untouchable? And if so, who will be the next to feel the consequences when the carefully constructed layers of control are finally challenged? The answers, if they ever come, promise to be as shocking as the story itself.